In my previous videos about Debian, I've had trouble getting it to boot from an external hard drive. It installs all right, but the Grub 2 bootloader doesn't work. I tried again with the Debian 9.4 disk image, and this time it worked. Here's what I did, what worked, and what didn't. The 9.4 disk image is supposed to include an improved installer, but it still does not recognize many proprietary drivers, so I downloaded the unofficial image, which includes some of the excluded drivers. And I found the updated ISO, lists some of the fixes. I'm going to click on Getting Debian. I'm going to click on Debian on CDs and downloading Debian CD DVD images, official images of the stable release. I'm going to select the DVD image of AMD 64. Now I'm going to the non-free images, and I'm going to go to 9.4 non-free, and then click on AMD 64. And I'm led again to the CD image unofficial directory. And now I'm going down to firmware-9.4.0 AMD 64-DVD-1 ISO. And if I double click on that, I get the download arrow up at the top there. And it's downloading. I've installed Debian 9.4 on an external hard drive, but will show you the installation process on a virtual machine using GNOME boxes. Since that would not show some of the specifics about installation on an actual external drive, I have interspersed some screen photos of the actual installation. Now I tried the graphical installation, but in spite of the fact that it's an improved installer and I used the version with all of the proprietary drivers, I still couldn't get it to recognize my touchpad. I couldn't move the pointer, so I went down to the regular installer. Choosing English as my installation language, United States as my location, American English for the keyboard, now it's loading additional components. To show how it installed my wireless network, I'm going to go back to the actual installation. Under Configure the Network, it says your system has multiple network interfaces. Choose one as the primary network interface during installation. I will select my wireless network and then press Enter. And it identifies mine as the most powerful, apparently, because it separates it from the rest. So I'm going to point to that and then press enter. Now it wants me to choose which form of encryption I use, and in my case it's the WPA2 form, so I select that and press enter. It asks me to enter my passphrase, and of course I've blurred that out since it shows the actual characters. Press enter. And now it's configuring the network, and eventually it said it was connected. Enter Debian as the host name. I'm not going to enter a domain name. I'm going to enter a root password. Enter the password again. Enter the full name of the user. I can include caps here if I want. It chooses a username, which I could change. Now I have to enter a password for the user. I'm going to choose the central time zone. It's loading additional components. Now for partitioning, again, I'm going to depart from the virtual installation. Under partition disks, it says the installer can guide you through partitioning a disk using different standard schemes, or if you prefer, you can do it manually. Now I'm going to do it manually, so I select manual and then press enter. This is an overview of your currently configured partitions and mount points. Select a partition to modify, etc., etc. Now you'll notice it shows my internal drive, which is SDA, and it has two partitions, an ext4 partition and a swap partition. Then it shows the USB stick from which I'm doing the installation as SDB, and it shows my external hard drive on which I want to install this, SDC. And I already have one system installed on SDC, so I have two partitions, an ext4 and a swap partition. So I'm going to go down to the free space here and press enter. Now it asks me how to use the free space, and I'm going to select create a new partition and press enter. It gives me the maximum size of the free space, but I'm going to enter 160 gigabytes GB and then press enter. Now I could use primary partition here because I haven't exhausted the 4 possible primary partitions, but I'm going to use a logical partition and then press enter. Please choose whether you want the new partition to be created at the beginning or at the end of the available space. I select beginning and press enter. And then it gives me a summary of what I've done. I'm going to use a partition as ext4 journaling file system. By the way, it selected this automatically and I could change it. Now here it shows me the defaults of what has been selected. So I didn't have to enter a lot of these values, but I could change them. It's using an ext4 journaling file system. The mount point is root /. The mount options are default. The label is none. The reserved blocks are 5%. Typical usage is standard. Bootable flag is off. Now, I could change all these things, but they're just the way I want them, so I'm not going to change them. And I'm going to select it, Done, setting up the partition, and then press Enter. Now, this is an overview of what I've done so far. You notice it's created a partition number 5 on my external hard drive, SDC, and that's a logical partition with 160 gigabytes, formatted as ext4 and mounted at / or root. I already have a swap partition on the external drive, so I'm going to let this new installation share that. However, I'm going to go back up here to the swap partition on my internal drive. I don't want the new installation to share that, so I select that and press Enter, and it gives me an option of how to use it. It shows the existing use as a swap area, so I'm going to press Enter, and it gives me options of how to use the partition. I'm going to go to the bottom where it says Do Not Use the Partition and press Enter. And then I'm going to select Done Setting Up the Partition and press Enter. Now I'm going to go down to the bottom where it says Finish Partitioning and write Changes to Disk and press Enter. Now here's a summary of what I've done. It says if you continue, the changes listed below will be written to the disk. Otherwise, you will be able to make further changes manually. And it has changed the following partitions. Partition number 2 of SDC as swap. Now that was the existing swap partition, and I left it so it is using it again. And partition number 5 of SDC, which is my new partition, and it's formatted as ext4. Write changes to disk. Now, it defaults to no, but of course I want to say yes, so I click on the left arrow and then press Enter. Now we're back in the virtual machine. Again, it's installing the base system. This could take a while, so I'm going to pause the video. I can scan additional CDs or DVDs if I wanted to install the rest of all of the software from CDs, but I don't want to do that. And I'm selecting United States as a location for the mirror and ftp.us.debian.org for the mirror. Now it's configuring apt, which is the package manager. No, I don't want to contribute to the package usage survey. Now I'm going to choose the GNOME desktop and press Enter. This is going to download and install 1,472 files, which is going to take a long time, so I'm going to pause the video. Now it's going to install the Grub bootloader, so I'm going to depart from the virtual installation again and go back to the photos of the actual installation. It says preparing Grub 2 common. It's looking for other operating systems. This could take a while if you have many. Now, this is very important because this is what I misinterpreted and where I made my mistake. It says install the Grub bootloader on a hard disk. The following other operating systems have been detected on this computer: Fedora 27 and Debian GNU Linux 9. Now, I already have one Debian installation on the hard drive, and this is going to be a second one. If all of your operating systems are listed above, then it should be safe to install the bootloader to the master boot record of your first hard drive. When your computer boots, you will be able to choose to load one of these operating systems or your new system. Then it says install the Grub bootloader to the master boot record. Yes or no. Now, I interpreted this to mean that if I clicked on yes, it would install the bootloader to the master boot record of my first hard drive, which it mentions in the second paragraph, and I didn't want that to happen. I wanted it installed on an external hard drive, so I've been clicking on no. However, I learned through trial and error that this was a mistake. I should have clicked on yes. When you click on no, it will not install the bootloader to any master boot record. When you click on yes, it will install the bootloader to any master boot record that you subsequently choose. I think the wording of this dialog box should be changed to make that clearer, but this is the way it is. So I'm going to click on yes this time and press enter. Now it gives me more options. You need to make the newly installed system bootable by installing the Grub bootloader to a bootable device. The usual way to do this is to install Grub on the master boot record of your first hard drive. If you prefer, you can install Grub elsewhere on the drive, or to another drive, or even to a floppy. And then it gives me a list of which I want to use. And of course, it also gives me an option of entering the device manually, which I've tried. And if I had clicked on no on the previous dialog box, none of these would have installed it where I wanted it. I've tried it every possible way. Let me say that you can install the bootloader on your internal drive if you want, but your installation on the external drive will then not be portable. You will always have to use it with this one computer. To make it portable, you should install the bootloader on your external drive, and I want to install it on the master boot record of my external drive. So I go down to /dev/sdc, which is my external drive, and press enter. Now it's running Grub install on device SDC, and then it runs update Grub. So now we're back in the virtual installation. And the installation is complete. I'm going to click on Enter. Now in real life I'd be removing my installation medium, but this is GNOME boxes, so I'm just going to let this proceed. And it gives me a choice of Debian Linux. Of course, in real life I'd also have a choice of my other installations. Now I click on my name and I have an opportunity to enter my password. I can also choose between X11, GNOME, GNOME Classic, and GNOME on Wayland. I'm going to select GNOME. And enter my password. And click on Sign In. And this is the GNOME desktop on Debian 9.4 in a virtual image, of course. This is XRAM Tech. Thanks for watching.